Welcome to the Sublimation of Ferrocene and Synthesis of Ferrocenium hexafluorophosphate lab. So just to get right into it, I've got 1.55 grams of the dirty ferrocene, the impure ferrocene here on this weight boat. We can take that over here to our petri dishes. So we have a set of petri dishes. So we have kind of a lid. It's a little bit wider than fits over the top of this taller one. So we'll set the lid aside for now. Take our ferrocene. We want to get a nice spread out layer of the impure ferrocene here in our petri dish. That's a pretty even layer. And then to that, we will now just turn on our lowest level of heat and let that drive off any water that's present in the ferrocene. So our ferrocene is warmed here for a few minutes. So now we can add the other half of our petri dish here to begin the sublimation. Turn up our heat a little bit. I've got just a beaker with some ice and some water here we can place on top, and that will help to capture our ferrocene as it sublimes. It will stick to the upper petri dish. So I'll set up the camera and we can watch a bit of a time lapse of this. So once I saw that all of the ferrocene had moved up to the top of the petri dish lid, I turned off the heat. The glass here is quite hot, so I can't touch it right now. So we'll let it cool, and then we'll be able to collect our sublimed ferrocene. So I believe our ferrocene has cooled down enough now that we can remove it from our got some nice orangey crystals. So to collect them, we're going to collect them in this little weigh boat here. You'll want to collect them into a tared vial, at least for weighing. Just scrape them off the inside of our petri dish here. Well, that'll be our collection for now. Let's see how much we've got. Looks like 1.057 grams. Great. So when you do this, you'll be collecting yours. You need at least 1 gram to move on to the next part, and you'll want to get a melting point to check the purity. So for the synthesis of ferrocenium hexafluorophosphate, we need to dissolve some ferrocene and do some further reactions there. So I've got 1 gram of ferrocene, some of this sublimed ferrocene here in this weigh boat. Take it over, add it to this beaker. Dissolve that in 10 milliliters of methanol and water, or acetone, excuse me, and then dissolve this in soap. Rinse the weigh boat with the acetone. Okay. Start our stirring. And then to the other beaker, we'll add 1.2 grams of anhydrous ferric chloride, which is iron-free chloride. And we'll rinse that one out with 25 milliliters water. Alright, we'll let those stir for a moment while they dissolve. So the iron solution is dissolved. Let's just take this one off. Get the ferrocene solution stirring. And then we'll add the iron solution to the ferrocene solution. That's a fun color change. Okay, and we'll let that blue-green solution stir for 15 or so minutes. So our 15 minutes for the stirring time for this is up, so we need to filter this now. So I've got here a filter flask with a piece of filter paper already in it. This is a Buchner funnel and a filter flask. And then we're going to filter this through some sea light. So sea light is this very fluffy white powder material. It's a diatomaceous earth, I think is another name for it. Sea light is like a trade name. Anyway, it's very good at removing really small particles. So just scoop some of that here into our funnel. And the filter paper is mostly just to keep the sea light in place. Makes clean up a bit easier. Flip that around just a little bit more. There. So, cut that. Flip it around. Take this guy over here. Got the clamp already set up. Turn our string off. Our vacuum. Our solution through the sea light. That's okay. Just about there. Take a look at the sea light now. It's kind of an orange color. There's a little bit of blue in it, but you can see that we've got most of our solution now. We're still dripping a little bit, so we'll let that filter through. I will get us another beaker for the next step. Okay, so we've got a new beaker and a new stir bar. This is going to give us maybe one more drop, and then we'll shut off the vacuum. Come on. There we go. Set that aside to put that sea light in the solid waste. Flask over here. We've got it clamped. Now we're going to add this 1.2 grams of, this is ammonium hexafluorophosphate. Get our stirring on. There we go. And we'll be letting that stir for a little while before we move on to the next step. So our solution here has been allowed to stir for another 5 minutes after we added the ammonium PF6. So now it's time for us to add 10 milliliters of ethanol, and this will help us precipitate out the ferrocenium PF6 that we're trying to make. And then we'll be able to collect it by filtration. So let's let that stir for a moment longer while we get our filtration setup going. Pretty typical. I've got a fritted funnel, another filter flask. Just got that clamped up over here. Swirl and filter. So we've completed the filtration. So we remove the funnel here. I'm going to take the stir bar out. Set that aside. We can set our flask aside for now. Or our funnel aside for now. So we can collect more product by evaporating this solution to around 20 milliliters and then adding more ethanol to it. So I'm going to pour this into a round bottom flask here. And then put it on the rotovap. And evaporate off more material. That one right there. Plug in the pump. Lower that into our back. Okay, and we will be evaporating this shortly. So here's our flask after being on the rotovap for quite a while. More solution, evaporating down more solution would be better, but this is what I'm going to do for the time allowed. To that I'm going to add about 10 milliliters of ethanol. Swirl here, and then we'll filter that off to see if we can get any additional product. I've already removed the product from the filter before, and it's now here in this acetone. Let's just filter this off. So it looks like we got a little bit more out. I bet there's more, but it seems to be not wanting to precipitate very well. So we'll scrape this out of this funnel. Into our beaker here. This has acetone and the other amount of solid. This is going to be this is what we're recrystallizing with, or we're going to use this to recrystallize the compound from acetone and ethanol. So just clean out our funnel. And I've got just a little bit of acetone in here. I'm just going to add just a little bit more. Another 2.5 milliliters, just to dissolve what's on the sides here. Okay. Look in there, make sure that I'm not seeing any big chunks of solid. Doesn't look like it. And then to that, we're going to add 40 milliliters of ethanol. I've got the ethanol here. 40 milliliters. This is 25 milliliters, this graduate cylinder. So there's a little over 25. This a bit of a stir. And we're going to put this at the ice bath right here. Beaker. This ice bath. Alright, and we'll be back when we get some solid to filter again. So we're back to filter and collect our crystals of ferrocenium PF6. So I actually transferred our solution from the ice bath in the beaker into this Erlenmeyer flask and put it in the freezer. Just time constraints made me do that, so. But we're gonna filter this off and see what we get. That looks lots better. It looks like a nice blue powder instead of kind of a bluish green paste. Alright, I'll let that dry on the funnel and I will get it weighed. So I got the compound dried. I'm scraping the last bit off the funnel gently here. got about 91 milligrams there.